Hi, welcome to InstructorLive. My name is Sam and this is Introduction to Pilates. This is our third session, so all you're going to need is something comfortable to lie in so you can see your screen easily. If you've got any questions during the session, just type them in. Also, if you need a drink of water during the session, it is quite a warm day, so you're more than welcome to keep that handy. Okay, let's start. Last week we explored a little bit about alignment and neutral pelvis from the week before too, so I want you just to absorb that as well as we go through the sessions and just refresh your memory if you haven't done the other sessions yet. Okay, so let's get into a nice standing position to start. Alignment, feet underneath the hips. Soften the knees a little bit, draw the abs into the spine. You want to find that neutral pelvis again. So again, it's not the over extreme movements of the pelvis, it's somewhere in between. Tuck your ribs in, shoulders relaxed away from the ears, and try not to push your jaw forward. You want to draw it in so the back of the neck is long and in line with the rest of the spine. Right, let's start by warming ourselves up a little bit. We're going to circle those shoulders. Just getting some blood flow going, then going into an arm circle, looking up to the ceiling, then down to the floor. Breathing in and breathing out. And 3 more. 2. Get that lovely release, link the hands behind the back, lift the arms up, and then sighing forward. If you're a little tight in those hamstrings, you can bend your knees a bit, breathing into the stretch, and then slowly coming back and lengthening tall. So today we're going to be focusing quite a bit on center, okay? It's one of the principles of Pilates. So we're really going to try ourselves in different positions and learning how to find our center. It's really important for Pilates and any exercise that you do. So in standing position, we're going to now take a step forward, and I want you to think about the centering position of your pelvis. Okay, if you're facing forward, your hip bone should be facing forward, and that applies when you're walking too. So what happens is a lot of the time when people walk and they've got the slight bit of imbalance and they're not too sure where their center is, they end up kind of getting this little bit of rotation. They start twisting a bit and start getting little aches and pains in their back, okay? So what we're going to do is to try find the center of our pelvis. And a lot of people also talk about core and that kind of thing, so I'll talk to you a bit more about that in a sec. Both hips facing forward. Now, a lot of the time with your center and trying to find your center, we also talk a lot about balance, okay? If you pop your feet like one in front of each other, you're going to feel like you're balancing a little bit on a tightrope, okay? If you look at your legs, they don't stand in front of each other. They're actually next to each other in a parallel alignment. So the same applies when you're walking, or when specifically now for this exercise, you want to keep those legs still in parallel. Hip distance apart. Then we're going to reach the arms up to the ceiling. In line with the shoulders, in line with your shoulders, shoulders away from your ears. We're going to bend both of the knees. And I want you to think about how you're catching the weight in those legs. Make sure your center is basically the center line, okay? So you don't want to be shifting your weight all the way forward so you end up leaning forward. You want to think about connecting into your center, drawing the abs in, and imagine you've got a pole going through the top of your head, through the body, between the legs. So you're just sliding down your center line and then lifting back up. Let's do 5 more like that. And shoulders relaxed, head drawing in, breathing out as you go down, breathing in as you lift back up. And again, as you're going down, careful that the back leg's hip isn't starting to twist backwards. Breathing in and breathing out. Try relax your shoulders. Don't worry too much about the breath. Just as long as you're breathing, that's all I'm worried about. And then last one, we're going to hold it there. Now, check your posture of your spine. You should have your shoulders over your hips. Then we're going to take the same hand as the front leg. We're going to bring it behind so that we're rotating through. So you still want to have a sensation of connecting into your center, but it's a feeling of elongation. So you're rotating and lengthening up through the crown of the head. and then coming back to center and bring the back leg forward. Other side. So check your pelvis is nice and centered, hips facing forward in that parallel railway track alignment of the legs. Arms in line with the shoulders, lifting the back heel. Big breath in to prepare. We're going to slide down that imaginary pole and then lifting back up again and lowering down, lifting back up, and 4 more. Breathing in and breathing out. Abs always drawing in. In Pilates, we're going to say that a lot because it's really important to always connect into your center when doing exercises. And 2 more. 1. Last one, keeping that straight back. You're now going to open the hand, same as the front leg behind you. Drop your shoulders. And again, think about, even though you're rotating around, you're not collapsing to one side. You're thinking about a spiraling length up to the ceiling. And then back to center, coming up, and give those legs a good little shake. So when also talking about centering, you want to think about your breath. As a little formula that I tend to give people, when you breathe out, obviously your lungs empty and everything has an opportunity to connect into your center. So if you're doing, ab curls and that kind of thing, you want to breathe out on the effort, breathe in on the release. Because as you breathe out, all the muscles in the abdominal wall like to connect into the center. So especially when you're doing core work, which we're going to explore a little bit now, it's really important to breathe out when you're loading into the abs so that you've got a nice deep connection into your center. So let's go down into 4-point kneeling. Standing at the back of your mat, feet in parallel, big breath in to prepare. We're going to do a roll down to get there. So we're going to nod the head to the chest and then slowly rolling down through your center line. Breathing in as you go, noticing any tightness anywhere in that release. At the bottom you can roll your shoulders, circle your arms, walk the knees, just loosen up a little bit through the pelvis and hamstrings, and then walking your hands forward, bending your knees and resting them onto the floor. Now we're in 4-point kneeling. Hands underneath the shoulders, knees underneath the hips. So I want you to think a lot about how you connect your abdominals into the spine. So imagine you've obviously got a nice heavy belly and then you're trying to lift your belly button up off the mat and into the spine. So do this as often as you can, whether you're standing or sitting, that connection of drawing the abs into the spine and into your center, it's going to really help with your posture. So in 4-point kneeling, we're going to do a little bit of core stability work, which is really good in trying to get those little muscles to find their center point again. So let's start with opposite arm and leg extend out. Make sure you're not collapsing on the other shoulder, still thinking about your alignment. You're going to draw your abs into the spine as the arm and leg open away from your center. So it's going to add a little bit more of a challenge to that center line. And then closing back to center and release back down. Other side. And lengthening opposite arm and leg out. Abs drawing in. You're going to open out. Closing back and releasing back down. And 2 more each side. Lengthening through, abs drawing into the spine, open the arm and leg out to the side, closing back and release back down. And other side, lengthening through, opening out, back to center and release back down. Once more each side. Always drawing your abs into the spine, especially as you start loading a little bit with the arms out to the sides. And open, close, and release back down. You can come off those wrists and just get a nice little stretch there. Big breath in to the back of the rib cage and just feel the whole body relax into those legs. Okay, right, now coming back into 4-point kneeling, we're going to go into some plank work. So this is going to really help to strengthen up your powerhouse muscles, which are basically like your core muscles, which a lot of people refer to as. And if you imagine that you've got your superficial muscles, which are basically the surface muscles, your big movers, and then you've got tiny little ones kind of just below that and around that help with stability, okay? This is where we're really trying to work when we talk about our powerhouse muscles and our core stability muscles, okay? So we're going to start, one way of strengthening them is by using the weight of our own legs to work those little muscles. So you'll feel them activate as we do this exercise. This is one of the ways to do it. You're going to spread your fingers out nice and wide. Curl your toes underneath you. And again, think about that neutral pelvis that we spoke about in the past 2 sessions. It's a nice neutral pelvis. You're not pushing your sitting bones out and curving into the lower back, and you're not bringing the pelvis in. It's kind of a mid-placement between the two. Now, lift up through the chest, slide the shoulders down the back, and then we're going to push into the hands, push into the toes, and then just hover the knees. So that feeling of lifting the knees off the floor helps to activate all those muscles in your center. So I know my top's kind of dangling and it looks like I've got a little belly, but I'm actually drawing my abs into my spine as I breathe out and lift the legs. And then release back down. Let's do 5 lower and lifts. We're going to breathe out to lift, breathe in to lower, and 4. So this is a really good way to start preparing and activating those center muscles, and then release back down. Last one, we're going to hold it there just for 10 seconds. 9, keep breathing. So it doesn't mean because you're breathing out and using your abdominal muscles that you need to stop breathing. Don't ever hold your breath. Breathe into the back and side of the rib cage, and then release back down. Let go of those toes, walk your hands over to one side, and then sitting through and getting a lovely stretch. Coming up over to the other side and sitting back. Okay, right, let's come into a sitting position. Now, I want to think about, again, the alignment of your spine and your center line, okay? So if you think about just the spine, imagine there's a spine on the front of the body. That's kind of where we're talking about. So in a sitting position, I want you to now hold on to the knees. We're going to tilt the pelvis underneath us, drawing the abs into our center, curling a little bit there, getting a little bit of a stretch, and then coming up and lengthening the spine. It's really important that you grasp not only abdominal connection, but this lengthening and elongating of the spine. 2 of them will really help to improve your posture once you master that. So let's do 2 more like that. We're curving the spine, working into the abs, stretching the spine as you go into a nice deep curve, and then slowly restacking tall, coming onto your sitting bones. So when you're talking about posture, you want to think about starting from the base of the spine. So your sitting bones, lengthening up, lengthening but not arching the back. So keep your rib cage in line with those hips. 2 more, and scooping back, stretching and connecting into the abs, and then lengthening up nice and tall. And last one, scooping back, and then lifting up and release those legs down. Now, if you find that this is a little bit of a challenge, you're more than welcome to go as low as you can, keeping your feet bent. Okay, I'll demonstrate. We're going to go for the full roll back. A really good exercise to practice working on your center line. So I'll just demonstrate it. We're going to go all the way down onto the mat. Arms come above the head. Big breath in, hands come up, head comes up, shoulders. Dive over the legs, and then again, lengthening tall. If you don't have the strength and you kind of feel like you're having to jerk and struggling to get back up, I want you to keep your legs bent and then just holding onto the legs for support, trying to go as low as you can and then coming back up. You gradually progress down. Everybody won't necessarily get this first time, But for those of you who can, let's give it a go. Big breath in, starting with a nice straight spine. Point your toes, glue your legs together. You can see an imaginary line coming between the legs, up and then scooping through. Going down one vertebra at a time, stretching the discs of the spine. Arms come above the head. Big breath in, hands come to the ceiling. Breathing out, lift the head, lift the shoulders. Slowly coming up, folding over the legs, and then lifting and lengthening tall. Let's do 3 more like that. Breathing out as you go back, one vertebra at a time, following your center line. Arms come above the head. Big breath in, hands come up, breath out, head, shoulders. So as you can see, we're doing a very, what we call sequential movement of the spine, okay? So sequential just means one after each other. So you're going to go down one vertebra at a time, following your center line. You don't want to skip sections of that pathway. And it's the same when you start to think about your posture and the way that you move. Coming up, one vertebra at a time, diving over those legs and lifting up nice and tall. Right, let's go all the way down onto the mat, hugging the legs into the chest. Getting a really nice stretch there. Okay, now we're going to roll onto one side, and I want you to hold onto each knee, so you're kind of in a fetal position. And we're going to take the top knee, we're going to open it out as wide as you can, trying to resist with the bottom knee for as long as possible. And you're going to gently roll, 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 and then slowly over to the other side. So what I want you to think about is, as you're opening that top knee, what's happening with your spine, okay? I want you to, as you start approaching your center, so imagine your center is that us lying on our back looking at the ceiling. I want you to think about trying to pull your sitting bones down towards the mat before you roll over to the other side. So again, you're thinking about elongating the spine while opening up into the side planes, okay? So this will be your front and these will be your sides, okay? So let's try that. We're going to roll onto one side. We're going to open, resist, resist. It should feel quite nice for those inner thighs too. And as you get to the center, try flatten your lower back onto the floor, and then slowly roll over to the other side. And last one, opening out, lengthen as if there's a little tail that you've got between your legs and someone's pulling it away from the skull or the head. Skull seems really dramatic. It's just a head. And then coming back to center and then release back down. Now, if you think of your center as your powerhouse of movement, okay? And one of the reasons why Pilates is so good is because you're basically training an awareness of your center through Pilates practice, but also it helps to just get everything back to where it should be. So if your leg moves like this, okay, comes into the center and away from the center, that's the way the leg is designed to move. So what we do in Pilates, we basically try to get everything to move from the center in its best and most natural movement pattern, okay? Hope that's not too complicated. You'll see what I mean when we start to go into the abs. So, hands come underneath the head. Shoulders relax away from the ears, elbows up into your sideline view. Now, we've talked about neutral pelvis in the past couple of sessions. So it's that neutral, relaxed position with the natural gap under the natural curve of the spine. Then you're going to curl up onto your abdominal platform. So you're looking at the little gap between your legs. So use that as a marker for where your center line will be. It's basically the torso. Okay, picking one leg up to tabletop, pick your other leg up to meet it. Now we're going to play around with the strength and the center line. So when we're working our abs, you want to think about how you're loading your abs in a way that's not going to compromise the position of your center. So as you do a little toe tap down to the floor, notice which muscles are working and then bringing it back. So we're going to breathe out to toe tap, breathing in to bring it back. So we're working our abdominal muscles. As we lower the leg, we're adding load to our center, okay? So we're going to breathe out and breathing in. Let's do 2 more each side. And as you lower the leg down, you want to think about how you're holding your posture and that spine, okay? So as you're doing this movement, when you're lowering the leg, careful that you're not losing that connection of the abdominals into your center by flaring and lifting the rib cage off the mat. You want to keep your ribs locked to the floor so that when you do the little toe tap or add load onto your abdominal muscles, you're not straining in the back. Okay, listen to your body. Pilates teaches a lot of awareness in the body. So if your body feels like you're working your abs, but you're feeling it in your back, something's not right there. You should be feeling it in the abs, okay? So once more on the other side, and then releasing back down. So as a little rule, I also say when you do your abdominal curls, you need to maintain your neutral pelvis. And when you come up, the higher you come up from the top half, so if you can get your shoulders off the floor, you're less likely to compensate in the neck and shoulders. You always want to keep your rib cage locked onto the floor, because if I'm sitting in this position, my spine isn't completely flat, okay? It's got natural curves. One of the curves that you'll notice that I'm talking a lot about is your lower back curve, okay? So when you're lying on the floor, your ribs should be connected into the floor, and then that natural little gap in that lower back should be off the floor, because that's just the way the spine is designed. So that when you're working in your ab exercises, you want to always maintain that so that you're keeping all the postural muscles that control the center and movement and load with the legs. That's where we're going to need to really focus on. So let's go a little bit more, lots of talking, but it's really important to understand this concept of center. We're going to just do some more abdominal exercises and just really thinking about how we setting our spine up when doing these ab curls. So we're going to curl up onto our abdominal platform. Now we're going to straighten one leg, and we're going to do little leg circles going around for 5, 4, 3. What is your pelvis doing? Keep it level. Change direction. Going 5, 4. Shoulders off the mat. Keep breathing. 1. Bring the leg in. Release back down. So you may have felt that more of one side of the abs was working a little bit harder because it's having to work harder because it's only holding a heavy load on one side. So let's go over to the other side and see if there's any changes. Straighten the other leg and leg circles, moving from your hip. So you want to think about the anchor point for that load. What is that? Your center. So make sure that it's stable. Change direction. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Bring it back and release back down. So when talking about your center, you're also talking about the anchor, the foundation for all movement. So it needs to not only be stable, it needs to be correctly aligned in the best possible position to get the most out of your movements. Right, let's go on to the side of the body now. A really good position to practice using your center. So we're going to do some stability exercises. So these are here to challenge your foundation to make sure that they're holding load well in all positions. So let's start by actually straightening the legs. As you look down, you should be able to see your toes. Top hand comes up to the ceiling. Now this is just to add a little bit of a challenge. If you're finding it's too much, just rest your hand onto the floor for support. Otherwise, I'm going to pop it to the ceiling. I'm going to lift one leg hovering up to hip height, breathing out, squeezing the bottom leg to meet it. So I'm working the inner thighs, and then release back down. I'm going to do 10 of those. And now as you're squeezing up, you want to think about drawing the abs into the spine. So anytime you do any kind of movement in whatever position in Pilates, always think about your foundation, your center. You need to be connected, you need to be aligned so that you're getting the most safe movement pattern as possible. And another 3. 2, if you're feeling you're quite wobbly, it's just your body trying to find that center line. So even though we've been talking a lot about the front of the body, we also have side lines, okay? So this is now trying to find a center line, but from a completely different part of the body, your side part of the body, but you're still using your abs. So it's a strange concept if you're not used to it, but just bear with me. We're going to now keep both legs hovering off the mat, and we're going to challenge that stability a little bit more by bringing one leg forward, one leg back. If you can't hold yourself up and need the hand support, please use it. But we're going to change and change. So as you can see, our legs are our weights and they're moving around, so we need a nice strong foundation to anchor that movement, and that all comes from your center. So let's do another 4, 3, straight legs, 2, 1. You're going to hold the legs apart, top hand onto the top thigh, sliding up into the waistline, and release back down. Just 4 more like that, breathing up. So this helps just to strengthen up that side center line, if that makes sense. And another 2 more. 1, and back. 2, and release back down. Give it a bit of a smack and a bit of a rub if you need to. Right, because we're not a one-dimensional person, we need to make sure that we're also working the other side of the body. So just quickly, because we got a few minutes left of the class, legs are straight, hand to the ceiling if you need it, otherwise onto the floor, the reverse, onto the floor if you need it, hand up to the ceiling. Top leg hovers up, squeeze the bottom leg to meet it, and release back down. So again, take note of what's happening in the body. You might find one side's a little bit more stable than the other. Take note of that. Sometimes we have one side's a little bit weaker than the other. So you always do a few extra repetitions on your weaker side. Let's do another 4, 3, 2, abs drawing into the spine, especially as we add a little bit more complexity to the exercise. One leg forward, one leg back, and change. Change. Make sure as those legs aren't moving, everything else isn't moving. We're not jelly beans. Jelly beans? Jellyfish, that's the word I was looking for. And another 4, 3, 2, 1. Keep the legs apart. Top hand onto the top thigh. Slide up into the waistline. Back down. Breathing out and breathing in. Don't worry if you can't get all the way off the floor like I am. If you can only go up a centimeter, that's fine. Let's do one last one. Breathing out and releasing back down. Bend that top leg. Give it a bit of a rub and a smack just to get that blood flow back into the leg and waistline. Okay, coming up into a sitting position. I'm just going to quickly tie up my hair as I finish up. So when you're talking about center, you're also talking about the side of the body. And one way to make sure that we're trying to keep a nice posture in our center line is to make sure that we're strong on the sides as well as flexible. So let's finish up with a nice big stretch on each side. One hand comes up, other hand on the floor, and then lovely little side bend over. Breathing into the side of that waistline, and then lifting up and over to the other side, noticing if one side's a bit tighter than the other. And once more each side. It's really important to make sure the body's both flexible and strong, and we'll explore a little bit about that next week. And last little stretch, and then slowly coming up into standing. So it's always good to get ourselves recentered at the end of the class as well as at the beginning of the class. So let's get into our nice parallel alignment. Soften the knees a little bit, draw the abs in, nice neutral pelvis. Tuck your rib cage down, open up the collarbones, relax the shoulders and draw the chin in. Take a deep breath in, and as you breathe out, you're going to nod the head. Roll the shoulders again, following your center line, which means using your abs to guide that movement. Big breath in, roll the shoulders, circle the arms, walk the knees, and then slowly rolling back up. Use your bum muscles as well as those ab muscles, guiding the spine one vertebra at a time into standing. Thank you very much for having this session with me today, and I'll hope to see you next week.